Well, that's 4 in a row for the Philadelphia 76ers after they take care of business against the Memphis Grizzlies on the front end of a back-to-back. Next up, Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers postgame show on a Saturday night. Derek Bodner, Devon Givens, Kyle Neubeck with the night off. He'll be back with us for the Spurs-Sixers game. Brianna, of course, producing all of you on a Saturday night. Once again, we appreciate you hanging out with us. And while we expect Victor Wembanyama on the floor tomorrow night against the Philadelphia 76ers. I can't say, Derek, that we saw anyone close to the level of Victor Wembanyama on the other side for the Memphis Grizzlies. Man, was that a tough one. But they got the W. They did their job. They handled their business. And, now we have to talk about it.
Yeah, I felt like I had a flashback to watching, like Major League as a kid, to the, Ricky Vaughn, Willie Hayes, Mitchell Friedman. Who are these fucking guys? And at one point, Xavier Simpson came out, and I'm like, no, that's not a real player.
Yeah.
That's not a real guy. So at one point in this show today, I'm going to say a name that's not an actual NBA player, and I want to see if any of you can actually pick out who the fake player is versus who some of the real players are that we will talk about.
Yeah, it was that bad. Yeah, it was that bad. We were sitting there, and I'm like, wait a minute. I feel like I know. And I understand a lot of people don't pay as much attention to college basketball as they used to in the past, right? You felt like you followed their careers. You know the schools. You know the players. And yes, the transfer portal and all that stuff, things have changed. But you still feel like you have a pretty good sense of, all right, I know who that player is. There were a number of players who played for the Grizzlies tonight where I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Who is that team? And I see Ash in here says that was a D-League team. Not even a G-League team. That was a D-League team from their earlier days. But, I mean, before we get into the Sixers, man, look, again, they had to handle their business. They did their job. But, Derek, that was pretty bad. Looking at the Memphis Grizzlies, and we've talked about it with the Pistons in the past, the Wizards as well, but with the Grizzlies in the first game that the Sixers lost to them, so a little bit of a payback situation here. Yeah, man, the tanking is real.
Yeah. When you look at that injury report, just the sheer amount of talent and players they had out, everyone from Bane and Ja, obviously, Rose and Smart, Luke Kennard was out. Like, there was just so many. I'm pretty sure I said this exact thing the last time the Sixers played the Grizzlies, but everyone you would have recognized name-wise was out on the injury report in this game. So, yeah, it was. And look, they're obviously more worried about the draft pick than they are winning games at this point. We've all been there. We've covered multiple teams like that. This was a Grizzlies team who didn't necessarily have that mindset coming into the season, but because of all the injuries that they had, especially, obviously when Ja and Bane went out there, that was pretty much the end of their season. But yeah, it was, I don't even really know here's the main takeaway. Joel Embiid was able to be so dominant in 23 minutes of play, 30 points on 13 shots, that he didn't have to play the final 19 minutes of that game. Yep. Maybe because of that, there's a higher chance he plays on the tail end of the back-to-back. That is the one major takeaway from this game. The other will probably be like Paul Reed playing 2 minutes at the 4. I think he had played a grand total of 7 possessions alongside of Embiid up to that point. So I'm sure we will overanalyze and dissect those 2 minutes, even though they don't really matter, because, again, they were going up against a G League. Devon wouldn't even give him the Gatorade. He wouldn't even call him the G League. He wanted to call him a D League squad.
I'm with you, Ash. That was a D League team, man. Yeah, it was that bad. But no, man. I mean, look, they did again, and you mentioned it. The whole
Liam
point
Stevens
of it
bringing up a great one again. Timmy Allen, no idea who he was. That's not a real person.
Liam, Derek really said, "Who the hell is Tim Allen?" It was like, wait a minute, are you talking about Tim Allen? Like Tim Allen?
Yeah,
and he's like, no, I'm talking about who the hell is Tim Allen. That's how rough it is. Well, look, all right, the Sixers though. In all of that, the Sixers come out here this evening against this Grizzlies team, shorthanded as they are. No Ja Morant, Desmond Bane. Brandon Clark was really the only player that you knew from a regular rotation of this Memphis Grizzlies team. Sixers pick up win number 43. That's very important. They have 4 games left now on the season. San Antonio on Sunday night as second part of the back-to-back. Then they have 3 games to close out their regular season on Tuesday, back here at home, Friday, and then Sunday. So they have an opportunity, Derek, to maybe run the table here as we look at what they're doing. And as we can sit back and focus on what Miami and Indiana are doing. Let Cleveland, New York, and Orlando, maybe even Milwaukee, I don't know how far apart they are from the other teams, figure their situation out. But the Sixers are right now 4 wins in a row. They have a chance to close out again with 3 games now at home, plus this one more game on the road. They have a chance to really run this thing and maybe win 8 games in a row to do their part of minding their business, handling it, and putting, again, themselves in a situation where, Derek, we were talking about the 7th and the 8th seed and just simply worrying about getting number 7 so you can host that play-in game. And that's probably the more likely scenario right now. However, if they do what they're supposed to do, having the weak schedule that they have in front of them going forward, Detroit, starting off this homestand to close out the season, they have a really good chance of putting that pressure both on Indiana and Miami.
Yeah, and they really only have one tough game left. That is the one against Orlando. Orlando's been struggling a little bit here of late. Yeah, no, they've lost 4 of their last 7 games, including some head scratchers against the Hornets. They've lost some not great games. But before that, they were playing real good basketball. That is the only tough game that they have left. And that one will be at home. That is in Philadelphia. So that you do get that edge there. Outside of that, yeah, they should pick up pretty much everyone down the stretch. They might not because teams aren't perfect. Just because you're favored coming in, just because you're a better team, you do drop one every now and then. You might miss your shots. But they have a real chance of running the table. If they do that, that would be an 8-game winning streak to close out the year. They have a chance, a small chance, but a chance to go up there and at the very least host a play-in game.
Yep.
But, it might only be a 5 or 10% chance of catching that 6 seed. Actually, Orlando's a team that isn't completely out of the cards.
No.
I know they are 2 wins ahead of the 6. 2 wins? 1 win?
Right now.
I forget exactly. But they have a real tough schedule
45.
down the stretch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have the Rockets at Houston. And the Rockets, they're struggling a little bit here of late, but they're playing real good basketball as well. At Bucks, now the Bucks are a little bit of a dumpster fire right now, but they're still talented.
Yep.
At Sixers and against the Bucks again. So 4 tough games down the stretch, or theoretically tough games at the very least. If they falter a little bit, that's another team that is in play. And all you need are 2 of those 3 teams to falter and you win out. There's a small chance. I'm not ready to say I'm going to eat a shoe yet, but there is still that 5 or 10% chance. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but somewhere in that range of 2 of those teams faltering. But none of that matters if you don't take care of business.
Now, if you do take care of business and you still do not get that 6 seed, the one good thing, I would have to imagine if you win 8 in a row, you're probably getting that 7 and you're hosting at home. Again, I don't know what happens with Miami or Indiana in that scenario. But the other important part, Derek, is while you do have Embiid back, where we're kind of burying the lead of how good he was in the 23 minutes that he played, and we'll get to that, it's this.
So, it's hard to be like, oh, man, he scored 30 on Trey Jamison.
I know.
You got to keep it in
check.
He
was supposed to do that against Trey Jamison.
And he was very good.
And he was messing around against this defense. But the other important part for me...
That's why when people are like, oh, he's a stat padder, like, no, he could have came out and scored 60 tonight if he wanted to.
He was screwing around tonight.
Yeah.
But this is the other important part for me. If they win, let's say they win the 8 in a row, they win 78 to close out the season. They're playing good basketball. And they're doing that going into the postseason. They are already playing essentially postseason games as they try to move up in the standings. Then you get into the actual postseason games, even if it is a play-in game at home or in Indiana or Miami. They are playing good basketball right now to put themselves in a position once again to go into that tournament and play well, to try to win that play-in, to then get into that 7 or 8 seed and have that momentum going into a series, most likely against Boston or Milwaukee in that scenario. So if that's the case, I just like how they're playing going into it if they're able to run the table the way that we're talking about and doing that. And I think that's an important piece that cannot be overlooked. I'm sure we'll talk about that once we get there, but if we are to project out and really feel good about who they are right now, who they might be going into this playoff run here as we start everything up at some point this month, then I would really like their chances again, depending on the opponent, of how they're walking into that situation.
Yeah. And I guess since we brought it up, because of the possibility of moving to 7 or 6, just who would Heat and Pacers play each other tomorrow? Who do you think, if you're a Sixers fan, who do you want to win that game?
Off the top, I would say Indiana.
Yeah.
You agree?
So Indy is at 44 wins. Miami is at Why is my
Miami is 43.
43.
They're half a game back in Indiana. And the reason why I say that is because you do own the tiebreaker against Miami and not Indiana.
Well, not yet. You don't.
As far as the head-to-head matchup.
You don't own the head-to-head.
For Miami, 2-2.
Yeah, it's 2-2.
Sorry.
You haven't lost it.
You
so
haven't
Pacers,
lost
you lost no matter what.
Yeah, you lost that when you have a chance with Miami.
If Miami finishes with a worse conference record, you would win a tiebreaker over that. That would mean Miami would have to lose 3 of their conference games left. If that happens, it feels like you're probably just going to win outright over Miami and you're not going to be tied because I don't see the Sixers losing 2 games down a stretch. So I'm not really sure there's a path to winning the tiebreaker against either.
Right.
And I looked into it earlier because, like I said, if Miami does lose enough games where you would win that next tiebreaker conference record, you'd probably just finish ahead of them in the standings. And I looked at it, if the Sixers finished in a 3-way tie with the Pacers and the Heat, the Sixers would not win that tiebreaker. That goes to common won-loss percentage against those 3 teams. And the Sixers are at, I believe it is 3-4. They will lose that tiebreaker. I did not go into it and look in if there's like a 4-team tie with the Magic because I have I just didn't think about it, quite frankly. That would be pretty wild. But yeah, Sixers are not looking good in tiebreakers, so they really do have to take care of business.
And Ash jumps in with you and says, doesn't matter who wins, both teams need to lose 2 games in the scenario, of course, to help the Sixers out. So basically.
The problem is I think if you look at Miami's schedule, there aren't that many losable games left. I think they have a pretty easy schedule outside of that Pacers game.
And they won. After they lost to the Sixers, they came back on a tough game, second night of a back-to-back themselves, and won a game that we looked at and said they have a really good chance of losing that one, the Miami Heat, and they did not do that. So the Miami piece is also important just because as they do win that game, which was tough, and they'll have this one, it's in Indiana tomorrow, the Heat Pacers game, but with it, the fact of it is at Indiana.
In Indy, yep.
Yeah. So the fact of it is that they're still playoff. They are playoff Miami, and the game that they won on the road against Houston. While Houston has lost 4 games in a row, going into that one on the second night of a back-to-back against the Sixers, it looked like it was going to be a tough game, and they go in there and they win that. But now going into Indiana again, this is where we saw it ourselves head-to-head with the Sixers. They did play well. Certain players, Tyler Hero did not play in that game. Bam Adebayo did not have a good game. But Jimmy Butler, we saw what some of the others did, and keeping that one a close one to make it such a big win for the Sixers. They are really, really tough tough out. And it's going to be very interesting as we get ready for our game tomorrow, our show tomorrow, and getting ready to watch the Sixers and the Spurs. I'm going to have my eye on what happens with that game because, of course, it's important for us to talk about it as well.
So the Heat also do have the Mavericks on their schedule. But the problem is outside of that, they have Atlanta and 2 games against the Raptors. And on top of that, the last 3 games are all in Miami for them. So the one tough game they have is at home, 2 gimme games against the Raptors, and a game against the Hawks, who have not been playing good basketball in quite a while. The Pacers have that game against the Heat, one against the Raptors too. At least that one's on the road. One against the Cavs in Cleveland, which is, I guess, relatively tough.
And they haven't been playing good, so they need to start playing better going into the playoffs. Cleveland, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I still think a lot of those teams, it's going to be tough to catch.
Yeah.
That's why I still think 7 is probably the most likely. One of the 2 might falter. Maybe you get a real wild card in Orlando, although I think not. But I think the real thing is, man, if Tyrese doesn't randomly miss those 4 games because of a concussion at a point in the schedule where you still had some winnable games even without Joel Embiid, you're probably still looking at a top 4 seed, even with Joe missing 2 months of the season.
At worst, you fall to 6.
Yeah.
Yep. At worst, you fall to 6. So, all right, we will talk about Joel Embiid. We'll get to your super chats. We'll get to some of your chats. That just organically happened because we were sitting here talking about it, looking at what they did 4 games in a row, 4 upcoming games, San Antonio on the road, and then you're home for 3 here in South Philadelphia with Detroit, then Orlando next Friday, which is a really tough one. And, of course, you cannot overlook Brooklyn because that is your getaway game, and you don't want to look past them. Even though they are on their way into the offseason, you want to make sure that you're on your toes and you get yourself situated and ready to play that game going into whatever they're looking into. So it's going to be all fun. And as we do that, of course, We got to tell you about these great people that we have sitting here with us as we start things.
We do.
off.
We've been having Olipop around the studio for a while there. It really is a good beverage. I've tried a bunch of them here. We've got 2 of them sitting right here on our desk. Olipop is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. Olipop is available online and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including the most recent launch at Wawa stores. Olipop's debut in Wawa couldn't be more of a match made in heaven. A delicious, healthy drink meets a convenience store, both adored by a cult following. The 2 flavors debuting in Wawa are classic root beer and strawberry vanilla. The classic root beer was amazing. I actually drink that relatively frequently now. It has become a staple. I have long been a soda drinker. Walk in here with some kind of a beverage almost every night. This, Olipop is a great way to sort of combat that. You sort of get the taste that I'm familiar with, but in a more nutritionally conscious way. Olipop uses functional ingredients that combine the benefits of prebiotics, plant fiber, and botanicals to support your digestive health. 90% of Americans consume more than the USDA's daily recommended added sugar intake of 30 grams. Sweetened beverages like soda are the leading source of added sugars in the American diet. Olipop is much lower in sugar than conventional sodas, with only 2 to 5 grams of sugars from natural sources. Use the code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount only applies to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online at drinkolipop.com and Amazon, and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff.
And a longtime sponsor here on the show, the great people from Bagels & Co., hanging out with us here tonight. And for the first time, I think because he was out for his injury for those 2 months and we really didn't have a chance to award him the player of the game, I think I have to go with Joel Embiid and offering him the Bagels & Co. player of the game. Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philadelphia with love. Joel, when you get back from the road trip, I'll make sure you have a good bagel, see what kind you like. They're huge bagels. Biggest bagels in Philly. Our bagels, of course, very large, hence the Brooklyn and New Jersey style. Large variety, usually have between 15 to 20 different types to choose from on a daily basis. Seasonal bagels as well. For instance, during Valentine's Day, had you covered there for the bagels. The same thing for St. Patrick's Day as well. Had you covered for the bagels. And they continue to do that during the seasons as well when it comes to the largest cream cheese variety of 30 different flavors or schmearers. You have the Phillies during the pro season run at the promotional type of stuff in the fall when they're making that run towards the championship. The Eagles as well, and certainly the Philadelphia basketball team as they're trying to make their push for the playoffs. You want to make sure you find the closest Bagels & Co. near you so you can get that seasonal bagel, that sports-themed bagel here in Philadelphia. Hold on, folks, not just here in Philadelphia as well. Staples in Florida as well as Bagels & Co. have you covered when you're taking that trip down south and you want to have your bagel. And you're like, man, I'm on the road. I have a taste for my Bagels & Co. Well, you just look them up. Florida have you covered. Affordable prices in today's inflationary world. They're not trying to price you out. They're trying to bring you back. They want you to be an everyday part of the family. They debated on raising the prices, but again, they wanted to continue to be an everyday brand, not some high-end place you only splurge on the weekends. They want you there every day at these affordable prices. Not an artisan mom and pop, but the same type of feel of that mom and pop where you continue to come back and enjoy yourselves. You can also come in there as a repeat customer. Really good coffee, not $7 like Starbucks. Why go to Dunkin' and get a subpar product when you can come to us, Bagels & Co., and get a more premium product at the same price point? For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you. It's going to be a Sunday morning tomorrow, and I hope that you're able to get up, go find the closest location nearest you, and get yourselves a bagel, Bagels & Co., and tell them that PHLY Sixers show sent you. All right, let's get to the big, or you had something.
No, I was going to say we should probably talk about Joel a little bit.
Let's get to the big fella.
Yeah.
Got to talk about the big fella. 30 points in 22 minutes and 39 seconds. Round that off to that 23. and he had 12 boards, 9 of 13, made both of his three-point attempts. He missed 3 free throws. He missed those 3 in a row as he got to the free throw line. He was just toying with those guys there. And dare I say, with the 2 block shots, he had 8 turnovers. And the reason I bring up the 8 turnovers is because, folks, Derek, Brianna, he was just screwing around. He was trying stuff.
He had that
he was
behind the back
things.
bounce pass to Lowry in transition. And I think a la like shades of Magic Johnson. It's like, all right, calm down. It wasn't quite
And the thing that made that even better was because you had a point guard who gave it right back to him because the defense committed and he gave the ball right back to Embiid to finish the layup. But he was just out there screwing around, man.
But to your point, like he doesn't even try that behind the back bounce pass to the corner if he's not screwing around and confident that if he needs to dial it up, he can win this game in his sleep.
Yes. I mean, the guy, once again, he comes back and we've seen him already where he's come back and he's had 20 plus in these first 2 games. But to go out there and not even play as well as we thought he could have because of how he was toying around with this, I'm sure he gave his jersey to somebody, and I don't know who it was. I was waiting to see who it was. I was hoping that he was giving it to Trey Jemison because of how much he was out there making him look bad. Jemison and others tried to dunk on him. He blocked those, and he just felt bad for the guy. Let me give him a jersey. I don't even know who he gave it to. Maybe somebody else in the chat saw who he gave it to. But again, just toying around, trying to work on his game as he comes back against some real competition, and as Ash points it out, as a D-League team. But he did it in 23 minutes, and Derek, this is what we talked about in the past. This is what he does even when he's just messing around.
Yeah. And I think the big takeaway is I think he's looking progressively better and better in terms of just his fluidity, his movement. There's still some timing-based things that I think he's trying to get back. But in terms of changing direction, in terms of, being able to stay on the court for, 4, 5, 6 minute stints without looking completely gassed, I think each game is getting progressively better. And that's really, outside of picking up wins, that's really what you're looking for. Yeah, you want to see him develop some chemistry with some players on the floor, especially some of the guards that he hasn't played with. But a lot of this is about getting Joel Embiid back up to speed. And do I think he's there? No, but I think he's getting closer. You mentioned it. He had that real big block against Trey Jameson. He had another one against Bryn Davies when he challenged him at the rim. It was real nice to see him sort of accept those challenges, get out there, alter shots. The Sixers defense, since he has come back, has gone to another level. They were playing a lot better in March, up before Joel Embiid came back. Like in February, they were a train wreck. In March, before Joe came back, they were at least competitive. Now, with him back, they are playing at a much higher level. It's real good to see.
No, it really is. And defensively, man, I mean, again, as you said, he got those 2 block shots on them challenging him at the rim. And that was one of the things that we saw in Game 1 when he first got back against the Oklahoma City Thunder. There were moments in the game where you felt like he looked like himself defensively as Joel Embiid, the defender, and protecting the paint and protecting the rim. And then you saw other times in that same game where he wasn't as fleet of foot, he wasn't as sure of himself coming back in game number 1. Now that we are here in game number 3, and a good tune-up here, albeit a lesser opponent, it was still a good tune-up to see him defensively against this opponent and protecting the rim the way that he did. We even saw it going back to the other game on Thursday night where he altered so many shots where they had to decide of how they wanted to do things against the Miami Heat because of his presence right there in that paint. And that's what you want to see because as we talked about so much during his time off, not only the rebounding, but how poor the defense was as a team. And he makes it so much easier for everyone else from Batum, Lowry, Maxey, Oubre on for what they can do defensively, how much they switch, the help, the taking, the shading off, the digging down as well, because they know they have that protector back there at the rim. So to see that, to see the passing, and to see him play in this way. And as the game was going on, this is where I got ticked off in the first half, folks. Not a lot to be mad about, right, in a blowout in this fashion. But it was this. You're playing against the Grizzlies. You get off to a 12-2 start. And again, they're messing around. He's messing around. How about Kelly Oubre messing around a little bit? Tyrese Maxey only took 7 shots in this game, which is good because he's probably going to go off in the game. He's well rested for San Antonio. But my thing was this. It worked out where they were able to rest their players in the fourth quarter where their main guys did not have to play. But as the game went on, and before they took the 20-point lead at the half, I'm sitting there saying, you should be up 30 because you want to make sure that Maxey and Embiid, especially Batum as well, don't have to really exert so much energy knowing that you have another game tomorrow night. And probably the more important one because of the opponent with Wembanyama and some, with all due respect to Memphis for where they are right now, a much better group of players than are currently playing right now for the Memphis Grizzlies. So I'm sitting there saying, blow these guys out so you can rest. Now, it worked out that way where they were able to turn it up in the third quarter, and Embiid was a big part of that. Kelly Oubre, Nick Batum, Kyle Lowry as well, that they did do just that, and they were able to rest. But early on, I was sitting here with Derek and Bree, and I'm like, blow these dudes out, man. Why are you playing around with this opponent?
Yeah, they're playing with their food. Playing with their food a little bit.
Yeah, they were playing with their food.
Look, the only way the Sixers were going to lose this game is if they came out and they shot like 7 for 33 from 3, and Memphis somehow had it going on.
Sure.
That didn't happen. In fact, it pretty much flipped the other way. Memphis shot 9 for 26. Not bad, but not enough to steal a win against a superior opponent. The Sixers had some turnover problems, but so did Memphis. All of the kind of things, Memphis hit the offensive rebounds, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to cover up the difference. Everything that Memphis needed to have to sort of steal a game against a very superior opponent wasn't going on. And even though, Embiid had the 8 turnovers, even though Maxey only took 6 shots, this was a walk in the park. As long as the Sixers didn't, what's the, I can't think of the name. It doesn't matter. I was thinking of a meme. Doesn't matter. Bad audio.
It's okay.
As long as the Sixers didn't completely step all over themselves, they were going to win this game.
Oh, yeah, no question. And again, no starter, folks, in this game, and we'll get to some of the others and their performances. No starter played any more than 26 minutes and 32 seconds. That was Kelly Oubre, who had another nice game. We'll get to him here in a minute. But no one played more than 26
Sideshow
minutes.
Bob. I was thinking of Sideshow Bob. I couldn't think of the guy's name, and it was driving me insane.
Sideshow Bob. But no one played more than 26 minutes in this one, and that just simply bodes well.
Yeah.
Especially for Tyrese Maxey, who played 25, and for those who have talked so much about why is he playing so many minutes, he's probably a little tired, he's a little fatigued. He was 7 shots. He only took 6 tonight, and it was 1 3-pointer that he made on the 4 attempts, and he had another. I think it was a short jumper that he made to give him that and get to the free throw line as well. But for them to finally turn it up and not play with their food and get this one done and not play any more than 26 minutes and give some of their younger players some extended time as well, that's what you wanted to see against an opponent like this. But I will ask you, because of this, does it bother you that Embiid did play, knowing that this opponent, you probably could have taken care of business without him? Now, no Mo Bamba, so he's still out with the illness. And
oh, no.
I'm just talking in terms of having your two fives out there, right? Yeah, and Paul Reed and Mo Bamba. I'm sure KJ Martin and Nick Batum would have been able to handle some 5 minutes there at the center position. But
KJ played okay.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He did. Did it bother you that they decided to go with Embiid and have him playing?
I mean, if the plan is that Embiid will only play in one of these 2 games, then yeah, I probably would have rested Embiid for this one, played him against San Antonio, just because even though San Antonio has a worse record on the season, with the way Memphis injury report is and the way they're tanking, this was the easier. They're both winnable for sure.
Absolutely.
But this should have been a game even without Joel Embiid. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you need somebody like Maxey to be a little more aggressive. Maybe you need some other players who step up. But I think they would have. I think you could have won this game without Joe. So if the plan is to only play him in one of the 2, then yeah, I would have chosen the other direction. If the plan is, maybe they come out, blow Memphis out, and Embiid only plays 23 minutes, pretty much exactly what happens, then you have him for both, then I'm fine with it.
And I'm pretty sure that's what they were counting on when they made this decision. By the way, no Tobias Harris once again. So maybe, depending on that knee contusion, how he feels tomorrow night, maybe you also get Tobias Harris ready for the San Antonio Spurs. You probably don't need him. You can wait until Detroit on Tuesday for him to get going a little bit. But if you're looking at a spot where Tobias Harris can come back, maybe it is against the San Antonio Spurs on Sunday night, should he feel up to it based on that knee contusion.
Good. We'll see. I know the chat is probably jumping with excitement for that one, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get to some of the others and your super chats. We got to tell you, look, from day-to-day annoyances to big stuff like not going to the playoffs, it doesn't look like that's going to be the problem for the basketball team, but our hockey team, they've gone in the wrong direction. Well, if that's the way it looks, it's easy to get worked up, and the way for you to chill is with our good people right here at Coors Light. But again, better way with the chiller way. Turn your team's loss into a parking lot dance party. Too cold for a swim in Lake Michigan? Play a game on the beach. Light a bonfire instead with our great people here by choosing chill. Reach for a Coors Light. There's also a big wrestling situation going on in the city, and I'm sure based on some of the photos that we saw, some videos that we saw prior to things getting started there in South Philadelphia, I'd imagine there were a lot of Coors Lights in hand in the parking lot as they tailgated for the main events there tonight. That's where I wanted to lean into outside of the basketball and the hockey teams, because we saw so many people excited on South Street. Bree and I were talking about videos there. Everybody's having a good time on the weekend. The weather was cooperating for you too. Again, just chill. And even as you get home, maybe you did find yourself watching the end of the basketball game here, maybe the college basketball tournament as well, where you decided, I'm going to put my feet up here on this Saturday, tell everybody to leave me alone, and choose chill with this Coors Light. When the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. And when it's time to chill, open a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. When you choose to rise above it all, choose chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
We also want to make sure we tell you about Empire today. Do you have a cat? You don't seem like a cat person.
No, I don't.
I have a cat, and if he even looks at food the wrong way, he yaks all over my carpet.
Is that right?
All over it. If I feel like it's just slow down, eat, don't be a doofus. But no, he can't. Just cannot handle it. I would love to replace my carpet. Absolutely.
You might have to.
Might have to. If I do, Empire Today is where I'm going to go. With Empire Today, you can get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats. But they can't beat Empire Today on quality, service, or speed, so they advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire Today won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire Today keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not to overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find perfect styles. And Empire Today has a virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might be talking to someone today who was working in plumbing yesterday. Flooring is all Empire Today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They also service their own warranties, so with Empire Today, you won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use a promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details.
All right, let's go to a super chat before we get to Kelly Oubre. Grass checking in here saying, the way the East is falling, minus the Celtics, if the 76ers win out, they might have home court in round one, and play that song. We all know the 76ers song. Derek, we talked about it a little bit, but man, you mentioned the Orlando Magic part. Grass is talking about it too. Way Cleveland, Orlando right now, even New York getting the bad news that Julius Randle is not going to be back for the postseason. I don't know, man. Is he right?
Getting a top 4 seed? No, that's not going to happen. Look, is it mathematically possible that you could jump any one of those teams above them? Yeah. Yes. Jump all of them? No, they're not going to all go in the tank like that. It's just not realistic. But you just have options now. Like if you have 2 of those 4 teams that stumble, you have a chance to catch them. That is more important than having a, dream of maybe getting up the top 4. It's just not, like I said, if Tyrese Maxey doesn't miss those 4 games, you might have a chance. But there's just not enough time to pass that many teams.
By the way,
it's like when in baseball, when you get to the end of the season, everyone's like, oh man, we're only 3 games out of a wild card spot with 15 left to play. Yeah, but you got to pass 7 different teams. There's just no way that 7 teams
you're not going to get that kind of help. That's a lot of help.
Yep.
That's a lot of help. By the way, Vince Pellegrini, our guy, of course, our guy here from PHLY, he sent me a text and showing me the Sixers Twitter account where he did Joel Embiid, in fact, seek out Jemison to give him his jersey.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Right? A guy who probably won't even be in the league.
No, that's probably a lot. This will be the last time I probably say his name.
Yes.
But I was impressed with the way he and a bunch of the other young Memphis players attacked, including Bryn Davies. Giving you all a second chance here.
Bryn was playing hard, man.
I was real impressed with
tough.
Last time I did that, only one person called me out.
I saw it.
Appreciate you, Liam. I appreciate you. That was very good.
Pay attention.
I give them credit for how hard they attacked. Like they challenged him. They really did.
They did.
And Trey was one of them that stood out. Now Trey got on the wrong end of a poster. That was an incredible block by Joe. But I give them credit for attempting.
And look, they're fighting for their potential NBA lives, their future. Scottie Pippen Jr., who has gone from L.A. Lakers to Memphis, not getting a lot of time, goes out there and he did some decent things there in the second half down the stretch where he finished with a team high 24 points. I don't know what that means, but these guys are playing for their lives. And you saw some of the players out there that, again, we may not see them again. They might be G League players going forward, or they might wind up overseas. But this was an opportunity, and again, for Joel Embiid to seek out Trey Jemison and give him the jersey. I don't know if there was a conversation had where Jemison asked for it.
Yeah.
But even if he didn't, Joel, you saw he took off his shooting shirt and threw it to Kyle Lowry, and he was smiling and he was seeking out Trey Jemison to give him that jersey. So that was pretty cool. Let's get to another super
chat. And honestly,
chat.
one of the things I liked about the process, besides the fact that it gave you a chance to get some high-value draft picks and develop a team,
Like
didn't necessarily work out outside of Embiid. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It gave a chance, guys like Hollis Thompson a chance to play when they probably otherwise wouldn't. It gave people like TJ McConnell a chance to play, where he might not have been in the league if he doesn't get that opportunity. There's a whole host of, you can go down the list. There's a bunch of NBA people who got NBA careers who might not have had a chance to really work on that, show themselves on the stage. And I hope that's the case with Memphis. I made that joke about Trey. He's not without talent.
Yeah.
He's got some stuff. He's 24, a rookie. He's got some stuff working against him. But I think he's shown enough where if he makes the most of this opportunity, he might have a chance to establish himself as a role player in the NBA. And there's a bunch of guys on that Memphis squad like that. There's still a part of me, I don't want to say I miss it, because it's much more fun to be on this end of the process. But I do appreciate that aspect of it.
Yep, absolutely. Let's get to our next one here. C-Dub just simply wanted to contribute to the show. We appreciate it, C-Dub. Thank you so much. If you wanted to add something to that, of course, try to get it in here in time before we get out of here, and we'll finish reading your comment. Coach Lowell Ricketts, what up, Coach? Run the table. Get the 6th seed. Eat a shoe. Fly pie.
He really wants me to eat that
man.
shoe. Really?
Coach, I think a lot of people want to see Derek eat the shoe now.
I would prefer them to be the 6th seed.
Yes. And I already said it. Look, as he said, it's not physically impossible. Well, physically, you can eat a shoe. It's just a matter of what happens thereafter. But I will find a way. Maybe we can even get our good people at Bagels & Co. to cut it up in the form of a shoe and bring a bagel in here for Derek in the form of a shoe. So he had to eat that.
We'll figure something out.
Sanj checks in. We're rooting for the Heat tomorrow night. Is that a question? Yes, that's a question. Are you rooting for the Heat tomorrow night? You laid it out a little bit early in the show, but for those who may just be joining in, Indiana is hosting the Miami Heat, 5 p.m. tomorrow in Indiana. So who do you need to win there if you are the 76ers?
Yeah, I still think it is probably Miami that you're rooting for to lose.
Okay.
But there's an argument for both. There really is an argument for both, because Indy's schedule is definitely tougher.
And should the Miami Heat lose tomorrow, they will have an identical record with the 76ers for that 7-8.
Yeah. It's just if Miami loses tomorrow, then you pretty much, if you win out, you're good to go. So at that point, you control what you control. There's an argument for both, though, for sure. I guess the optimistic take of it is that it's good either way. And if the Sixers do what they need to do, then they have a chance to put real pressure on them and host a play-in game at the very least.
Any preference, Indiana or Miami, in that play-in again? Based on what we've seen since the Sixers have played the Miami Heat.
Probably Indy, but you should be able to lock Miami up. Like, Miami should not be able to score on the Sixers team.
No.
The Sixers should be able to really, really, really shut them down on offense. Now, you've got the Spo factor, you've got the Jimmy factor, you've got all of that, and I get that. But I think the Sixers should have a really good chance against either team. The only thing I would really be scared about against either opponent is the fact that it's just one game and weird shit can happen. You can go out there and shoot 7 of 35 from 3, and next thing you know, you're playing for your lives against the winner of the 9-10.
Yep. All right, you a fraud. Jumps in. Buddy Hield is going to get hot in the playoffs, and some team is going to pay. Missed his first 2 shots.
So
then made his next 2.
He means some team is going to pay, as in like the opponent you're playing, not somebody's going to pay him in the summer.
In the offseason, right? Because he didn't mention the offseason, so I felt like he mentioned the opponent in the postseason. He missed his first 2 shots. He then made his next 2.
Yep.
And then he went on to miss some more. We keep talking about it.
He's been bad the last 2 games.
He was 3 for 12, 1 for 7 from beyond. He was in there in the final minutes of the game with the Jaquavion Smiths, Jeff Doughton, our guy Ricky was in the game. But Buddy was in there in the end, and I'd imagine it's just while those young guys are going to get their shots, Buddy needs to get going. At some point, we keep saying it, at some point the shots just have to drop.
Yeah, and it does seem like Nick,
I
know he ended up playing a bunch of minutes tonight, but a lot of that came in garbage time.
Yeah.
It seems like Nick has very little rope for Buddy when his shot's not going in. What he play against Miami, like 10, 12 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he was 0 for 6 and 0 for 4 from 3, but when that shot's not going in, I'm not sure Nick is going to give him enough time to shoot his way out of it. And shooting is really all he does. And look, Buddy had a couple of decent games. The Clippers game jumps immediately to mind. And his gravity is always going to be a little bit helpful with Embiid, even when the shot's not going in, because teams will continue to defend it. But you really would like just to see him free himself. The Sixers run something to get him open so he has a chance to get a few more open looks, because taking 2, 3, 4 threes per game, it's just not enough. He needs to get shots up in volume to really have an impact on his team, and that hasn't really happened all that much of late. Remember when he came out again, I don't want to say too much. I feel like every time I go, remember those first 4 games, but he was launching 10, 11, 12 threes per night, obviously in a very different role, and they need
because he had the ball a lot
more of him.
Right.
But they need to find a way to get him more open looks.
And look, for what Tobias Harris is not able to bring right now, and the same for Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre has, right? Now, while he has done that, there's an opportunity, again, for someone to then pick up that role of what Kelly Oubre is now taking for Tobias Harris not being there. That's an opportunity for Buddy Hield to do that. And again, he's just simply not doing that. So I hope you're right, you're a fraud, that he does get hot, because they're going to need him. And I would really like to see the best of Buddy Hield in that situation where he is rolling and he's making teams pay defensively because of how hot he is going. And then that opens things up for Maxey, Oubre, Harris, and certainly Joel Embiid. Kelly Oubre, we mentioned. We'll get to Vince in just a minute, our guy, of course, here. Kelly Oubre, 17 points in 26-plus minutes. Again, the most played for the Sixers, 5 for 10. He only took 10 shots, but still had his hands and his fingerprints all over this game. 2 for 5 from 3, 5 for 7 from the free throw line. And again, defensively, a block shot, 2 steals, had 5 assists to go along with 5 boards. Just active once again. He also had the same itis that Joel Embiid had, which was, let me mess around a little bit because I'm playing against the Memphis Grizzlies and just mess around and do some things. But he was good again. No,
my favorite sequence of the game was actually Kelly. He had a real nice bounce pass to Reed in transition midway through the third quarter. And then I think on the very next possession came off of a pick and roll and found Batum in the corner. Him making those 2 passes and those 2 reads They're not necessarily the highest level in the world, but they are a willingness to at least have your head up off the dribble that he didn't show earlier on in the season and he didn't show earlier on in his career. If he's going to win me over, that is what it's going to take. And we've seen strides now for a solid month of him being a more willing passer, a more committed passer. This was another instance where I thought he moved the ball pretty well. And that really is, that's sort of like the final hurdle to overcome. I've been really impressed with his defense. He's obviously shot the ball a lot better from three with Joel Embiid on the floor. We'll see if that continues. 2 for 5 from three again tonight. That passing is sort of like the last question mark that I really had. And if he's going to stay in the rotation and be a significant part of it, as we expect him to, especially with Tobias out, but even with Tobias on the floor, he's been a more prominent part of the offense for a while. That passing coming along is a huge, huge step.
I did want him to make one more. He was driving to the basket. It was just he and KJ Martin, and I wanted him to either bounce pass or lob to him. He just said, no, I'm splitting the defense and I'm going right to the basket and finishing. Now, he finished it and he made the layup, but it was to your point. We have seen him make these passes. I selfishly wanted him to make another because KJ Martin did play well, and that leads us right into KJ Martin, as you talked about. He was also the guy who was interviewed during postgame on television because he had another solid game. And when we talk about the trust that may not be there for Buddy Hield when the shot's not dropping and Nick Nurse not leaving him out there to shoot himself out of that slump in a tightly contested game, KJ Martin is just quietly playing well and earning his minutes in 22-plus minutes, 10 and 6 for the Sixers tonight, 5 of 7 from the floor. He had an alley-oop opportunity there late where he could not catch and finish that. And we, me and Bree, just kind of like leaned back on that. We're like, oh, he almost had that one. And we know he has his ups. But KJ Martin, again, man, as far as that front court, those front court minutes with Batum starting and Paul Reed, as we know, the primary five as the backup, he's been showing out and showing out pretty well. Yeah,
no, an active night tonight. 10 points, a couple of rebounds, 2 blocks. I thought he, again, made a couple of his interior passing. He can make a couple every now and then that you don't expect. And he's been playing well inside on both ends, finishing near the basket, protecting the rim when he can, activity on defense, no shot whatsoever. But right now you need an innings eater, and he has given you some pretty good minutes.
Yeah, 2
and
block
again,
shots.
We went through our expected playoff rotation a couple of shows ago. None of us expect him to be in that rotation. But right now you need someone to take some minutes, give you an interior presence, a little bit of athleticism, and he has done that. Yeah, KJ Martin playing well for Nick Nurse's basketball team right now. So the Sixers did overall tonight, folks, shoot 52%. We just round that off, 51.9% from the floor, 41 from three. They got to the free throw line 23 times. Embiid, 13 of those, shooting 78%. On the glass, it was 44-41 in favor of Memphis. Didn't matter. Assists, 27 assists on 41 makes for the Sixers, and he coughed the ball up 19 times for 17 points the other way, where the same number of turnovers for the Memphis Grizzlies. Sixers scored 26 off of those miscues and points in the paint, 46-40. The Grizzlies, 10-8 second chance points in favor of Philadelphia, and 19-10 fast break points for the Sixers. The Sixers never trailed in this game, and their biggest lead was 27 on the night. Yep. And this was a game where Memphis scored on average 82 points per 100 plays. That is in the bottom 1 percentile of all games this year. Part of that is the fact that Bryn Davies is being featured on that squad. Come on, guys. I'm really trying to give you a chance here.
Bryn was working hard.
And everyone that you would have recognized, including most of their stars, are out. But the Sixers did execute. They did give pretty good effort. I thought they were pretty connected on defense. And that is an area where obviously Joel Embiid changes everything. But it would be great. Honestly, it's great that the Sixers have some really bankable, winnable games down the stretch. They need that for seeding. That's really important. I wouldn't mind a measuring stick game or two thrown in here just to see where they are with Embiid. I guess that was sort of like Miami.
Yeah,
but outside of that, there aren't any really left here. Orlando's going to be a big game for sure. But, yeah, no, the defensive uptick has been really encouraging and something that I think this team needs to be able to hang their hat on in the playoffs, and they have done so and certainly did so tonight.
Well, we got Jay of the Jungle saying Bryn Davies for life in the chat. Bryn Davies for life. To your point about...
If I mention Bryn Davies Xavier Simpson, what was it? Timmy Allen.
Timmy Allen.
You don't know which one of those three is a fake player.
Tim Allen sounds like a punt returner for the Eagles, right? That's what it sounds like. To your point of a tough game, there is a second game tomorrow. The San Antonio Spurs in their last game did beat, depending on how you feel about the New Orleans Pelicans, they beat the Pelicans.
Yeah, it's a good one.
By 2 points, so that's a good win for them. So at the very least, they feel good about the last time out on the floor and what they did. Maybe they do get a test. The Sixers do tomorrow night in San Antonio. Now, Embiid did have 70 the last time that he faced that defense with Victor Wembanyama.
I'm going to take the under on 70 on this one.
I'll take the under. Yeah, I'll take the under in that. But you never know. He still might get 40 in 25 minutes because that's just how good he is. But they may get a game in this one tomorrow.
And look, the Spurs have had some decent wins here of late. Wemby dropped 40 on the Knicks in a win not too long ago. They obviously beat the Pelicans. Like you mentioned, I think even the game against Denver was relatively close. Like they have a chance to, surprise you. And the Sixers, if they come out and they execute and they play well and Embiid plays, the Sixers should win it for sure. But
they still are the worst team on record in the Western Conference. 19 wins. Yeah.
Sixers should be heavily favored, especially if Embiid plays. But you can't take them lightly. They do have a chance to surprise you. And with the way Wemby is playing, he has been, a matchup nightmare for sure. And I can't wait to watch that. I can't wait to watch that.
No, I mean, look, Trey Jones, as we went through everything for tonight with Brent Davies and others, Tim Allen and Trey Jemison, you do know Malachi Branham, of course, coming from Ohio State, draft pick from last season. You know Trey Jones. You know Victor Wembanyama, Julian Champagnie. Yep. You know those guys, Zach Collins, Devontae Graham coming off the bench. But that doesn't mean that they're a good basketball team. They're not a good basketball team, and you do have an opportunity again for at least your own sanity within that locker room and your own feel good, the vibes, the mojo going into the postseason. You want to win 5 in a row. You want to keep this momentum going into these final 4 games of the season. So Sixers, San Antonio, that's tomorrow night. It is a 7:30 start time for the Sixers and Spurs, I think, because tonight was 8 o'clock. Tomorrow is 7 o'clock, actually.
There you go.
Look at that.
Good. I appreciate that.
Earlier night, 7 o'clock for the Sixers and the Spurs. So we'll be back after the game, of course, to go post-game with you. Kyle will be back with us. Brianna will be here as well. Maybe Vince will be in the chat or in our super chat. And that is our final super chat of the night. Great Sixers win. No one wants to play the Sixers. Prefer the Bucks over the Cavs in a matchup for the first round. Real question is, South Carolina women versus the Iowa women tomorrow for the NCAA Women's Championship.
You can't go against Dawn. You can't do that.
I'm not going to. As fun as it has been to watch Caitlin Clark and that Iowa team, that South Carolina team, number one, aren't they undefeated still? They're undefeated. They were undefeated through the season, right?
I think so, yeah.
Right, Bree? Yeah. Undefeated through the season. So, yeah, I'm going with Dawn Staley in South Carolina.
Just as a rooting interest, too. Absolutely.
Fair. Ash says, before we leave, Sixers, 29-8.
There you go.
With Joel.
There you go.
See you guys tomorrow night. Well, with that, we want to thank everybody, of course, for hanging out with us on a Saturday night. We talk about
people on a Saturday night. We're talking about a game against Timmy Allen and Trey Jemison
and Brent Davies
and Xavier Simpson,
Xavier Woods, all kinds of guys out there. We're looking at. Hey, guys, we thank you. We keep talking about building this community, and we appreciate you guys being here every night, and we are thankful. And with that, we have a lot of you to thank.
We do. We have C-Dub, Coach Joel Ricketts, Sanj, You a Fraud, and Vince in the super chats.
What up, Coach?
Appreciate you all. I want to also make sure I shout out Liam Stevens, since he was the only one to call me out on my Bryn Davies nonsense.
What up, Liam?
Good job on you. We also have Eugene Ross, Coach Joel Ricketts, Ray Burrows, Maurice James, Marty Bones, Colby
Bones,
Buckets.
what up?
Martian Lynch. Guard Mello, Vic, 3-time, 2-minute warning.
What up, Al?
JF Jungle, Fichi, Daniel Berry, Luke P.
I like it. What up, Fichi?
Ash Monroe.
What up,
as
Ash?
Always.
29-8.
Front-running fan base. And I will say, the amount of people in here on a Saturday night watch about a show on the Grizzlies does show his username is true. There's a little bit of front running. That's all right. It's a little more interesting now that Joe's back. We get it.
Yeah.
Al Riso, Trey, Corey, Chris B.
What up, Corey?
A.A. Ron.
What up, Aaron?
Nick Nurse's pinky ring.
We got to get the pinky ring to get that third round matchup. We love it.
Val, Cannoli.
What up, Val?
Hedva, Bootzilla.
Boots!
And I think that is all that I have jotted. Fusion, I see Fusion recently, but that is all I have in my notes. So we appreciate each and every one of you. We will be back.
What up, Aaron?
We will be back here in less than 24 hours, so we hope to see you again all tomorrow night. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Another fun night, and we hope to see you tomorrow night. And maybe we're talking about the Sixers 5 games in a row. By the way, who won the game tonight? UConn and Alabama. I didn't see it. I didn't see what was the final score. Did you see it? You didn't see it? Bree, you know the final score? I don't know. All right, I don't know. I'm guessing when I looked at halftime, it was UConn. UConn won 86-72. So it sets up Purdue-UConn battle of the 1 seeds in the championship on Monday night. And we don't have a game on Monday night, so we can watch that one for sure.
Who is it that UConn was playing like maybe 2 weeks ago, where like 6 minutes in the game, score was like 2-2?
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the wildest things. They were like the best offensive team.
And it was
in the
one
league.
of the lower seed teams,
it was
too.
A wild game.
Yeah, like Gulf Coast.
Yeah,
something like that. All right, everybody, thank you. Yes, Liam, UConn, Vince, and 3-time. We see it. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Sixers, Spurs. Have a good night.
We all silly like the mayor.